Welcome to our New Deal podcast. I'm Zach.
And I'm Nicole.
And in today's episode, instead of looking at current events, we're going to take a step back in the past. Our own Nicole Santa this past election year interned for Eugene DePasquale as he was running for the 10th District House of Representatives in PA. Unfortunately, he would lose to Republican Representative Scott Perry. So we're going to ask Nicole some questions and hear her thoughts on how the campaign went and what she felt like she contributed to the campaign. So, Nicole, my first question for you is just simple. What was your role in the campaign?
So, my official title was Digital and Relational Organizing Intern, but basically what that means is I would talk to other people on the campaign, volunteers, voters, and try to just do the outreach side of the campaign. So, a lot of it was calling voters, doing voter registration events, planning other events where we just reach out to voters. So that was kind of the overall thing that I was doing during my time on the campaign.
So, throughout the time on the campaign, what were some of the challenges you encountered with it?
So there were a lot of different things we did. So, I would say there's a lot of smaller challenges, but probably one of the biggest things was just apathy of voters. A lot of people just didn't want to hear from us. They didn't care. And I get that it can be annoying to get so many political calls around the election season, but a lot of the people that were making those calls were unpaid volunteers who just are doing it because they care. So when there's so many angry people picking up the phone, I would say that's a big repeated challenge because it happens every time we call voters. Also, just getting Eugene's name out there because Scott Perry was running for his 5th term, so really the biggest thing was getting people to know who Eugene DePasquale was, because Scott Perry was obviously a lot more well-known in this district.
Yeah, definitely would be a struggle there, especially with the incumbency term and how that all works. So another question for you is, as an intern, did you feel like you actually had an impact on the voting outturn?
So ideally, I'd like to just say, yeah, I made a difference because obviously that's what I want to believe. But I don't know. I don't know if I made a difference because we did end up losing, and there's a lot of voters in this district. I think maybe 700,000 people in this district. So I don't know how much I did on my own, but I feel like maybe I made a difference on an individual level. Even if I just convinced a small number of voters to vote for Eugene, that's basically as much as I can do as an individual person. And I think maybe I was contributing to the bigger effort as a whole, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. It's hard to one person have an impact for a huge thing, especially that when it comes to voting, just as an intern and making a few calls and everything. So another question I have for you is, even though Eugene lost that election, were you satisfied with your efforts?
Yeah, obviously it was a really sad moment when he lost, and Scott Perry is a scumbag, and I really, really don't like him, so that was really disappointing, but I do feel like we made a difference because really the ultimate goal is to get Scott Perry out of office. There's going to be another election in 2 years, so I feel like we're just chipping away at the Republican hold that they have on this district. And I feel like we did a good job at I don't know, it was difficult at times, but we believe that Eugene was the better candidate, so we put a lot of hard work into it, and I feel like I am satisfied with our efforts and, how many voters we reached out to, how many people we convinced to vote for Eugene. So yeah, I'd say overall I'm satisfied with my efforts.
All right, now we didn't write down this question, but what was your favorite part about being on the campaign?
Okay, so now let me think a little bit more. I guess just the people I met because I don't know, there were a lot of different interns and organizers. Those are the people in charge of the interns, and just other people on the campaign and even voters. When you're talking to people who care about similar things as you do, it's really, really nice to make those connections. And I still follow those people on social media and, see their tweets and stuff, which is a random thing, but yeah, it's fun to meet new people in that area, and especially voters too. The people that I called during the internship, you wouldn't think that that would be a big deal, but I called one lady who was yeah, I'm a lifelong Republican, but I just started voting for Democrats, and if you ever need advice about getting through, making a difference and all that, you can always call me. And like, we had a long discussion, and so it's just connections with people like that.
Now, my last question for you is, do you plan on interning for future campaigns around PA?
Um, I I plan on being involved with future campaigns, but honestly, I don't really want to stay in PA. Like, my goal is to get out of here, so I'm almost kind of glad that I can leave PA in the past in the coming years. So I don't know. I will probably volunteer with at least one more campaign in PA, but that's not really the long term goal.
The long-term goal is to get out of PA. I think a lot of people within Central PA can agree with that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Eugene DePasquale, he did lose to Scott Perry. It was at a considerable margin that the polls weren't even predicting. But there's always another few years for him to rerun if he even chooses to, or if Scott Perry is going to keep the 10th district of PA. As always, we thank you for listening into our New Deal podcast. I'm Zach.
And I'm Nicole.